Meek sat in his spacious corner office, surrounded by awards and luxurious furniture. The breathtaking view of the city skyline usually filled him with pride, a symbol of his success and leadership. But today, it felt empty. His eyes were fixed on the employee satisfaction report on his desk, his brows furrowed with concern. How had things gone so wrong without him realizing? The numbers told a grim story. Employee satisfaction had dropped by a staggering 15% for the third consecutive month at one of his Virginia offices. The complaints were even more alarming. Accusations of a toxic work culture, favoritism, and even potential discrimination. These were not minor issues. They were red flags, signaling that something was deeply broken within the company. As CEO of TechVision, Malik Johnson had built his empire from the ground up. He believed in his vision, in the idea that a company should thrive on fairness, innovation, and employee satisfaction. But this report challenged everything he thought he knew. It forced him to make a drastic decision, one that would take him far from his usual world of power and prestige. Meek sat in his spacious corner office, surrounded by awards and luxurious furniture. The breathtaking view of the city skyline usually filled him with pride, a symbol of his success and leadership. But today, it felt empty. His eyes were fixed on the employee satisfaction report on his desk, his brows furrowed with concern. How had things gone so wrong without him realizing? The numbers told a grim story. Employee satisfaction had dropped by a staggering 15% for the third consecutive month at one of his Virginia offices. The complaints were even more alarming, accusations of a toxic work culture, favoritism, and even potential discrimination. These were not minor issues. They were red flags, signaling that something was deeply broken within the company. As CEO of TechVision, Malik Johnson had built his empire from the ground up. He believed in his vision, in the idea that a company should thrive on fairness, innovation, and employee satisfaction. But this report challenged everything he thought he knew. It forced him to make a drastic decision, one that would take him far from his usual world of power and prestige. The next morning, Malik stepped into the Virginia office not as a CEO, but as a new recruit. He had decided to experience the company culture firsthand, without the filter of his executive title. Dressed in casual business attire, he walked into the office under the alias Mike Carter, an entry-level marketing analyst. His assistant Angela had arranged everything: new employee credentials, a backstory, and even a small apartment nearby to sell the illusion. Only the HR director was aware of his true identity. The plan was simple: blend in, observe, and uncover the truth. As he entered the building, the first thing he noticed was the atmosphere, tense, almost robotic. Employees moved through the hallways with little energy, their conversations short and formal. No laughter, no excitement, just people going through the motions. "Hey, you must be the new guy," a voice called out. Malik turned to see a young man with sharp eyes and a tired smile. "Yeah, Mike Carter," he introduced himself. "I'm Daniel," the man said. "Welcome to the grind." Malik chuckled, but Daniel's tone wasn't joking. Over the next few hours, Malik sat through training and team meetings, observing more than he spoke. It didn't take long to notice the problem: middle management. Supervisors barked orders, gave little praise, and seemed more interested in maintaining their own authority than fostering teamwork. A senior manager, Ms. Caldwell, was especially severe. She publicly criticized employees for minor mistakes and dismissed suggestions without a second thought. It wasn't just leadership, it was fear. Employees were afraid to speak up, afraid to challenge the status quo. By the end of the week, Malik had seen enough. He had witnessed favoritism, harsh criticisms, and a workforce that felt undervalued. But what truly angered him was an interaction between Ms. Caldwell and a young woman named Sophia. Sophia had presented a marketing strategy that was fresh, innovative, and had the potential to boost engagement significantly. But instead of constructive feedback, Caldwell shut her down. "This isn't your job to question, Sophia," she snapped. "Stick to what you're good at, following directions." Sophia's face fell and she nodded silently, taking her seat. Malik clenched his fists. This wasn't leadership. This was bullying. That night, Malik made a decision. It was time to reveal the truth. The following Monday, an all-hands meeting was scheduled. Employees gathered in the conference room, some confused, others indifferent. Malik stood at the front, but this time he wasn't Mike Carter. He was Malik Johnson, CEO of Tech Vision. The gasps and murmurs filled the room as employees recognized him. Caldwell's face went pale. "I've spent the past week as one of you," Malik began, his voice firm. "I wanted to understand why employee satisfaction was so low, and now I do." He paused, scanning the room. "The culture in this office is broken. Leadership has failed you. And I take responsibility for that." A stunned silence filled the air. Malik turned to Caldwell. "Effective immediately, Miss Caldwell, you are relieved of your duties." Caldwell opened her mouth to argue, but the weight of the moment left her speechless. "I am making changes," Malik continued. "This company thrives on innovation and respect. If you don't value your employees, you don't belong in leadership." The employees exchanged glances, some with relief, others with hope. Malik smiled. This was just the beginning. For a moment the room was silent. Then a slow ripple of applause started, growing louder as employees realized what had just happened. Caldwell stormed out, her heels clicking furiously against the polished floor, but no one stopped her. Malik wasn't done. "Change doesn't happen overnight," he said, looking round the room. "But starting today, we're rebuilding this office from the ground up." He laid out his plan. New leadership. He would personally oversee the hiring of new managers who believed in collaboration, not control. Employee voice. A direct, anonymous feedback system would be implemented so workers could report concerns without fear of retaliation. Growth opportunities, promotions would be based on performance and innovation, not favoritism. Then he turned to Sophia. "I read your marketing strategy. It's brilliant," Malik said. "I'd like you to present it at the next executive meeting." Sophia's eyes widened. "Me?" "You," he confirmed. "Your ideas deserve to be heard." For the first time there was excitement in the room. Employees exchanged hopeful glances, murmuring among themselves. A month after Malik's revelation, the office felt like a completely different place. Employees were more engaged, ideas flowed freely, and morale had improved significantly. Sophia had nailed her presentation, earning her a well-deserved promotion. Daniel had stepped up as a leader among his peers. And Malik? He had learned that leadership wasn't just about numbers. It was about people. As he walked through the office, he heard laughter. Real laughter. It was proof that the crisis had turned into an opportunity. And this time, Malik wouldn't take his employees for granted. At Tech Vision, the atmosphere had shifted dramatically. The truth had finally come to light, and those who had deceived and manipulated others were now facing the consequences of their actions. Malik, the company's leader, knew that allowing such behavior to go unchecked would set a dangerous precedent. He had to act decisively. Linda and her accomplices, who had engaged in dishonest and harmful behavior, were formally punished. Their actions had not only disrupted the company's workflow, but also fostered an unhealthy work environment. As a result, they were suspended from their positions and required to undergo professional training on workplace ethics and behavior. This wasn't just a slap on the wrist. It was a clear message that deception and mistreatment of colleagues would not be tolerated. Beyond the suspension, the guilty employees were also made to publicly apologize to their teams. They had to acknowledge the harm they caused and take responsibility for their actions. Malik believed that this was necessary, not only for accountability but also for rebuilding trust within the organization. The damage had been done, but he was determined to make things right. While some employees faced well-deserved consequences, Malik knew it was just as important to reward those who had remained honest and dedicated to their work. In the midst of the chaos, two employees stood out, Angela and Henry. Angela had consistently gone above and beyond in her duties. She stayed late, took on extra responsibilities, and showed an unwavering commitment to the company's success. Malik knew she deserved more than just words of appreciation. To recognize her hard work and sacrifices, she was promoted to a higher position with a significant salary increase. This was not just a reward, but an acknowledgement of the value she brought to the company. Henry, on the other hand, had played a crucial role in keeping the team motivated during the crisis. His positive attitude and willingness to help others had not gone unnoticed. Malik believed Henry had the potential to lead, so he offered him a new role as the head of the IT team. Along with this new responsibility came a well-earned salary increase and greater influence in important company decisions. By rewarding honesty and dedication, Malik hoped to set an example for the entire organization. He wanted his employees to understand that integrity and hard work would always be recognized and rewarded at TechVision. Malik knew that to prevent further issues from arising in the future, changes needed to be made. It was not enough to punish those who had done wrong. He needed to create a culture that encouraged honesty, transparency, and teamwork. So, he introduced a set of new rules and initiatives to reshape TechVision's workplace environment. One of the first steps Malik took was to implement regular meetings where employees could freely give feedback. He recognized that communication was key to solving problems before they grew into major issues. By having consistent check-ins, he hoped to make sure that employees felt heard and supported, no matter their position in the company. In addition to open feedback, Malik introduced more efficient ways to report problems. He realized that many of the issues that arose in the past were the result of unclear reporting processes. By simplifying this, he aimed to make it easier for employees to raise concerns early on, allowing the company to address them quickly. Another change Malik implemented was more recognition for hard work. He knew that employees who put in the effort and showed commitment should feel appreciated. Whether it was a simple thank you or a more formal recognition in company meetings, he made sure that achievements, big and small, were acknowledged. This was part of his broader goal to create a more supportive and fair workplace. Through these changes, Malik hoped to rebuild trust within the organization. He wanted to make sure every employee had the opportunity to succeed and feel valued. These new rules weren't just about fairness. They were about creating an environment where people could thrive. He wanted TechVision to be a place where everyone worked together as a team, supporting each other toward common goals. As Malik stood by his office window, looking out over the city skyline, he felt the weight of everything that had happened in the past few days start to lift. The turmoil, the challenges, the decisions, all of it had pushed him in ways he had never expected. There had been moments of doubt, but those moments only made him more determined to lead TechVision toward a better future. The crisis had tested him, forcing him to confront some uncomfortable truths about his company and the people within it. But in those challenging moments, he found strength. It became clear to him that true leadership wasn't just about making decisions from a place of authority. It was about listening, adapting, and making sure that everyone in the organization had a chance to voice their concerns. Malik's commitment to fairness had only deepened as he navigated this difficult situation. It wasn't just about dealing with the current crisis, but about preventing similar crises from happening in the future. He knew that TechVision had the potential to be great, but that would only happen if everyone, leaders and employees alike, worked together, with honesty and respect at the core of everything they did. Even as the weight of the past few days began to fade, Malik knew that his work was far from over. There were still many challenges ahead, and it would take time to fully rebuild trust. But the foundation had been set. He was committed to leading TechVision in a way that would not only heal the wounds caused by past actions, but would also make the company stronger and more unified moving forward. The days following the crisis were filled with reflection and action. Malik made it his mission to ensure that the changes at TechVision were more than just temporary fixes. They had to be the foundation of a new era within the company. He worked closely with the leadership team, ensuring that the new rules and practices were not just adopted, but lived and breathed by every employee. The goal wasn't simply to punish those who had broken trust, but to build something better out of the situation. The new rules Malik introduced were designed to create an environment of openness and transparency. Regular meetings became a norm, a space where employees could voice their concerns and suggest improvements without fear of retribution. Malik wanted these meetings to be a platform for honest conversations, something that had been missing before. The feedback process was overhauled as well. Malik understood that reporting issues shouldn't be an obstacle, so he introduced a more efficient and less intimidating way for employees to speak up. This was one of the critical elements in rebuilding the trust that had been lost. People needed to feel heard, and they needed to know that their concerns mattered. Recognition was another aspect of the new culture at TechVision. Malik knew that it wasn't enough to only acknowledge problems. The positive actions of employees had to be celebrated too. Hard work and dedication couldn't be ignored. By elevating those who contributed positively to the company, he aimed to inspire others to follow suit. Angela's promotion and Henry's new role were just the beginning. Malik made sure that others saw these recognitions as part of a larger, more rewarding culture. He wanted every employee to feel that their efforts, no matter how big or small, would be appreciated and rewarded in time. With the new rules in place, a subtle but noticeable shift began to take place at TechVision. The air felt different. Employees who once hid in the shadows, fearing judgment or backlash, began to engage more openly. Conversations became more transparent, and there was a new sense of collaboration that hadn't existed before. The tension that had gripped the company seemed to lift, replaced by a growing sense of unity and shared purpose. Malik could feel the difference. He had walked the halls of TechVision countless times before, but now, as he passed by the offices and meeting rooms, he could sense a quiet optimism that had been missing for so long. People were not only talking to each other but listening. They were sharing ideas, solving problems together, and, most importantly, believing in the future of the company again. The leadership team, too, was more engaged than ever. Malik made it clear that the success of TechVision wasn't just about numbers or profits. It was about people, and it was about ensuring that every person felt valued. He encouraged his managers to lead with empathy, to understand the struggles and successes of their teams, and to foster an environment where honesty was not just accepted. Still, there was work to be done. The damage caused by the earlier events couldn't be undone overnight. Some employees remained skeptical, unsure of whether the changes would stick or whether it was just another cycle of empty promises. Malik understood their hesitation. Trust, once broken, takes time to rebuild. But he was committed to proving, through action and consistency, that this time things would be different. The challenges were far from over, but Malik was more determined than ever to lead TechVision to a place where integrity, hard work, and respect were at the core of everything they did. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he was ready for the task. As he looked back at the progress made, Malik realized that, in a way, the crisis had been a turning point, a wake-up call that had forced the company to confront its flaws and take bold steps forward. It had tested him in ways he hadn't expected, pushing him to evolve as a leader, but it had also brought clarity. Now, more than ever, Malik knew the path forward. It was one of honesty, accountability, and respect for the people who made TechVision what it was. The road ahead wouldn't always be smooth, but Malik was ready for whatever came next. After all, the true test of leadership wasn't how you fared when everything was going well. It was how you handled the tough times and emerged stronger. And Malik was more committed than ever to making TechVision a company that didn't just survive, but thrived. And so, as he stood looking out over the city skyline once again, Malik felt a renewed sense of hope. The journey had only just begun, but for the first time in a long time, he felt confident about the future. And with that, TechVision was on its way to becoming something stronger and more resilient than ever before. After the chaos and tension, Malik could finally breathe a little easier. His decisions, though tough, had brought a much-needed change to TechVision. By holding people accountable, both the ones who had made mistakes and the ones who had worked hard, he had set a new tone for the company. Linda and the others learnt that actions had consequences, and they would have to work hard to regain trust. But Malik knew this was necessary to keep the company strong and united. The suspension and the training they underwent would hopefully be a wake-up call for them to grow into better team players. On the other hand, Angela and Henry were rewarded for their dedication and loyalty. Their promotions weren't just about compensation, but a recognition of the values Malik hoped to foster in the company: hard work, integrity, and positivity. These rewards were not only a boost for them, but a clear message to everyone else: excellence would be recognized. Malik had also put new rules in place to prevent further issues. Regular feedback meetings, better reporting systems, and more recognition of effort were designed to keep the work environment fair and supportive. He had learned that leadership wasn't just about making decisions, but about staying visible, being involved, and actively making things better for everyone. As Malik watched the sunset over the city, he felt a sense of relief wash over him. The past days had been tough, but they had given him the clarity and strength to move forward with even more determination. His company wasn't perfect yet, but with the changes he had implemented, Tech Vision was on its way to becoming a place where honesty, trust, and hard work would thrive. Malik was ready to continue his journey, leading the company with a renewed sense of purpose and a clearer vision for the future.